Hello everyone and welcome to another build order video. This one is on the gold place as requested by Scrat. So if there's any map you would like to see featured, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, this one was a bit difficult to work on because what you do depends heavily on your faction and your opponent's faction. And that is because of the insane amount of reclaim in the middle that is, well, all in the water. And basically a faction with floaty hover tanks is going to have a massive advantage on this map, being, well, mostly Aeon, Seraphim a little bit with the Zui, but mostly Aeon. And so the builds are not really always applicable. So I've decided to give you 3 different builds depending on faction matchups. But that's a little bit advanced. For the lower rated players, I'm going to give you a simple standard build regardless of faction that you can always use. And I'll leave the more intricate details for later in the video, but I do recommend watching it if you are interested. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the beginner build. Of course, we're going to start with a land factory, 2 power. Both of the mexes, don't forget the move order. The ACU is not in range. And then we're going to make a few more power generators. The first factory, we're going to attack move right here with a alt right click. We're going to make 3 engineers, tank scout, and then just the engineers on repeat. Now we have some more time. The ACU, some more things to do. 5 more P-gens and an air factory. Second engineer moving in the opposite direction. We're going to send it downwards to the expansion. Always a good idea to make a factory in an expansion with a lot of reclaim around it. You can locally make engineers. This engineer will send to the middle. You don't have to manually reclaim. Let's just give it a move order and an attack move order. It's going to give you a lot of mass. Tank we will send to raid / defend. And since we have some engineers working on getting us some mass, the 4th engineer is going to assist the ACU, help with some building projects. Once this guy's done reclaiming, we can go and give him some other tasks. Let's build 2 mexes and then an attack move. Engineer will assist the ACU. Factory will make tanks on repeat. Next engineer will also expand downward, end it with an attack move. Always a good idea when there's reclaim around. Let's keep expanding. At this point we're kind of low on both resources, but I think it's a good idea to queue up a navy factory. Do not want to give up the middle too easily. Let's send 2 engineers even. Maybe if your opponent is Aeon, even at lower ratings, they will know to send Aurora through here. Might not be a good idea to do this. You can use these 2 engineers to build, and instead leave with the ACU. And we're just going to queue up power. Bye. Once the air factory is done, I recommend you leave the base with the ACU, and I also recommend you walk into the water. You might feel inclined to walk along the top. How else are you going to use your gun? But the point is to secure the middle. You can reclaim enemy engineers, factories, all that good stuff. And something I forgot to do, which you shouldn't, is to manually send some tanks to the bottom. Factory can make subs or frigates. I think both are good. Frigates, of course, doing more damage, better able to deal with torpedo defense, engineers, factories, but subs simply being more annoying. I'm going to start some factories. Let's see, that's the 13th engineer. These two engineers can assist the Navy factory. And the next engineer that comes out is going to assist factory production. Let's just make 3 factories right here. I am putting a lot of engineers on on power production, and that is because I am getting quite a bit of mass. It's because of this guy in the middle, and not a low amount of mexes. But in a real game, some of these mexes might be denied. This guy might die to a bomber or a floaty tank. You'll have less mass, and of course you should adapt and put less engineers on power, less engineers on mass. And it's mid of 5. I'm going to cut off the build right here. We end off with 10 tanks, 16 mexes, a navy factory with a frigate, ACU halfway across, 3 interceptors, and a scout. So yeah, nothing crazy. I hope this build is easy to follow for you guys. And then I'm going to move on to the more advanced builds. Alright, and then on with the more advanced builds. As I said earlier, I have 3 prepared. And it's basically build 1 is you are UEF or Cybran, and you're up against UEF or Cybran. There's no hover involved from either side. Build 2 is if you are Aeon and your opponent is not Aeon. And build 3 is you are not Aeon and your opponent is Aeon. And the reason I've decided to split the builds up in this manner is that having Aurora at the start is pretty oppressive on this map, and your approach should differ based on the factions because of that. Alright, let's get started with build number 1, just a classic UEF or Cybran matchup. We're going to make Land Factory 2 P-Gen, 1 Mex, then 4 more power generators. Land Factory, 5 power generator, Air Factory. Land Factory makes 3 engineer tank scout and then engineers on repeat. We're going to build the mechs and then do a bunch of manual reclaim. Don't forget to set the waypoint to the bottom right. That's where the next engineer is going to go. Third engineer will assist the ACU, so we're going to place a move order there in advance. This engineer is going to grab some reclaim, and since our opponent is UEF or Cybran, it's going to be pretty safe, unless there's a bomber coming. And after some reclaim, we will start a Navy factory. Want that thing to be up fast. With the next few engineers, we're going to do a lot of manual reclaiming as well to fund this factory and the quick base building we're going to be doing. Let's go this way actually. Something like that. Doesn't have to be the exact same. Probably a better way to go about it. Right, and with all that reclaim, the next engineer can assist the ACU. We're going to make some space for the factory. going to send a tank to the bottom manually. This guy can start making land factories. So these two engineers are done just power. The ACU can walk. And we're going to put another engineer on power production. Kind of low in resources, so we're just going to expand. Wait for some more pigeons to come online, and then add production to the land factories. And we still have more mass coming in, so I'll just keep adding engineers to the land factory production. And I'll send more engineers to the middle. If this engineer ever dies, by the way, you will lose out on a bit of mass income. Actually, more power wouldn't hurt. So this engineer can help with power production. This engineer might die to a bomber or something. Or it's reclaimed by an enemy engineer. In that case, just send a new one. Because it is pretty important. You keep getting mass from the middle. And at this point, we have quite a bit of engineers on production. We're just going to send more out to reclaim. Cases like this where you run low, you can simply grab some and continue walking with the ACU. Keep the scouts going. And it is minute 5. So I'm going to stop the build there. Got 17 tanks, 1 frigate, ACU halfway across, 5.5 land factories, 23 power generators, and 14 mexes. That concludes build number 1. On to build number 2, which will be Aeon versus QEF, Cybran, or Seraphim. Okay, on with the Aeon build. It's going to look very similar to the previous one, as you can see. Basically identical. Except we are introducing a lab. And the reason for that is I want to send this early Aurora through the middle to kill any engineers the opponent might send. But I don't want to leave the top completely open. So I'm going to build an early lab and harass the opponent, distract them, kind of prevent them from raiding us too soon. So first engineer does the exact same thing. Second engineer is going to be a little different. Let's put the waypoint here first. Second engineer is not going to make a navy factory. Because we have the floating tanks against a faction that does not have floating tanks, we have a massive advantage. And so I'm not concerned about rushing a navy factory. And so instead of draining mass, this engineer is going to give us a lot of mass. Which gives us a lot more resources to work with to scale the base. And you'll see soon how I decide to use this advantage. This Aurora, of course, as I said before, we send through the middle. The only thing you want to be careful of is the ACU that might be here building when you arrive. In that case, don't let it get reclaimed, and you should bring your ACU into the water as well. This next engineer can already start assisting the ACU, because we have a lot more mass to work with because of this guy right here. There might be a secondary bomber rush that the opponent might do. In that case, you should react by reducing the amount of build power on factories and power. That is, if this engineer dies. Next engineer will work on grabbing the bottom expansion. This one will bend towards the left. I'm gonna send a tank and scout to the bottom. And this guy can start making more factories already. So you can make some more power and another factory. Of course, unless you notice the ACU here, the ACU should leave. But if not, it's fine keeping it here for now. Not too long though. Start more power production. Slight stall there, so we'll pause the air factory for a few seconds. Should solve it. And I'm going to put another engineer on factories. We're going to have 5 on power. That should be good. Of course, if this engineer is bombed, then you will not be able to afford this amount of build power. And it's always a good idea to send some ore to the middle. I've been forgetting to. But yeah, you do want to use your advantage here. And we're not going to build another factory. In fact, we can just rush T2 with the amount of mass that we're getting. Send another engineer up to reclaim. Send another engineer to the middle to reclaim. And I'll stop making power here and start assisting the HQ upgrade. These guys have got the power front covered. If you're ever low on mass, the ACU can start reclaiming. The engineer can start reclaiming. If you're ever high on mass, you can start making factories. Navy factories, that is. A little over the 5-minute mark, my apologies. But we're working with 22 tanks. If I did pause at minute 5, that would probably be like 17, 18. We've got 59% D2 upgrade, 28 PGens, total of 6 land factories, 1 air factory, and 3 interceptors. And instead of this T2 HQ, you could have left the base sooner with the ACU and made Navy factories. It's really up to what the opponent does. If they are there rushing Navy, then you should as well. But you're likely to win with this. And even if you mess up, even if you're late with Navy factories, this T2 HQ can help you win it back, because the hover will be decent-ish at re-winning the middle pond. So yeah, let's move on to the next and final build, which will be UEF, Cybern, or Seraphim up against Aeon, and how to play against this overwhelming advantage of Aurora, basically. And now the final build. Before I do too much, I'm going to pause for a second. So we are dealing with an Aeon opponent. There's going to be Aurora in the middle. It's going to be very hard to secure the middle. And sending engineers is basically sending them to their death. So we're not going to be able to make a Navy factory with engineers. We're going to need to use the ACU. And immediately, right off the start, we are basically dealing with a disadvantage because the opponent has Aurora and we do not. And because of that, I will rush an air factory or a bomber. And the bomber's hopefully going to kill the engineer in the middle and then kill power and the base. Or you can try to sneak by and immediately go for the base. But basically, when you're at a disadvantage, you want to do something to make up for it. And in our case, that something is rushing a bomber and trying to make something happen. Because if you just sit there and do nothing, you're probably going to lose. That's the idea behind this build. Because we're trying to rush, we're going to send the second engineer to assist the ACU. First engineer does a very similar, well, the exact same thing as previous builds. This one will assist. We're rushing a lab just to add to the pressure that the opponent has to deal with. We don't want to make their time easy. I mess up with the engineer. But be wary of that. Don't make the same mistake. And yeah, as I said previously, we're not going to send an engineer to their death. We're going to build a Navy factory with an ACU somewhat early. And same as in previous builds, we're going to expand towards the bottom with 2 engineers. And a defensive tank. And there is the bomber. We're going to assist this factory. Bring the bomber out as fast as possible. And I did accidentally cancel the ACU's orders. We're going to bring those back. So as I said earlier, bomber can go bomb the engineer in the middle, and then go for the base, or ignore it, go straight for the base. I couldn't tell you what's better. Next engineer will expand along the top. And it might be a good idea actually to add another tank to the queue. Add some engineers to the power production. If there's engineers building, you bomb those. It speaks for itself, I think. And this tank's gonna head down, protect the engineers there. Again, both frigates and subs work. After this factory, you can walk across. You can send engineers later to build factories as well, once the coast is clear. Now we'll add more production to land. And as always, the goal of the ACU is to reclaim stuff. Reclaim Aurora on the way. Will be very helpful. Allowing the frigate to come out. And maybe just about now you can start trying to send engineers to the middle. Might not be able to afford this factory. Let's just skip it for now. Build it with just 1 engineer. And yeah, you might not win with this, but it's your best shot at making something happen. We went off at minute 5 with 12 tanks. We did have the early bomber, of course, almost a frigate, almost 5 land, 1 air, and 4 interceptors. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful or informative, and see you in the next one.